Welcome each and everyone to the space of learning. Probably we are called Career Connections Group, and we would like to connect, collaborate, and grow mutually for getting our knowledge, exploring each and every then and now. I invite here Ms. Harini Srinivasan, who is called as a people's doctor and especially HR doctor in terms of providing mentoring as well as knowledge sharing to each and every one of her known resources. And request you to ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So without much, without wasting too much time on introduction, let's get straight to the topic. Once again, thanks everyone for being here. This is an impressive turnout today, I must say, in spite of it being Saturday evening. Once again, a very good evening to everyone, and I'm really it's I look forward to this 2020 on the 20th of every month. And I wonder what we are going to do next year. I'm really going to miss it when we come next year. So today's topic is something again which came from the participants, and I don't know who all Prakash spoke to, but it came from everyone from this group. Because my endeavor is to reach out to you with some kind of solutions from my experience, from what I'm listening around the place, to a topic which is of interest to you. I want this monologue 20 minutes to be as fruitful as possible, and something which triggers questions in your mind so that the next 20 minutes becomes even more fruitful. So with that, the topic today is 360-degree management on 6 feet above ground. What we mean here is post the COVID season, as we are coming out of the pandemic, as organizations are slowly starting to work from office, moving from WFH to WFO. So as organizations are moving towards work from office, there is a concept called as the 6 feet office that is emerging. So when we actually made the title of this session, we called it 6 feet above ground, which actually means the 6 feet office or the 6 feet organization. So I want to quickly touch upon what the 6 feet organization really means, how it originated, and then we will discover as a group what are all the challenges that could face us, that we could be facing when we move into a 6 feet organization. The scene in Mumbai is still very grave, and I'm really alarmed with the increasing numbers, and I'm not sure when we are likely to move into full-fledged 6 feet organizations. Nevertheless, some other cities have started. So it's like this. So, my favorite character in all my HR stories is Anamika. So Anamika goes to her office, in this period right now, as her office has started opening up and people have been asked to work from office. So Anamika goes to office and she assumes that it's going to be a pretty normal, natural day. And she's very excited about meeting her friends after a long time at the workplace. So she enters the office building and she sees her friends, near the lift. Some of her friends are behind at the gate. They are entering the building. And she suddenly remembers that she has to follow the rules of the 6 feet office. So she restrains herself from going and giving her friends a big hug. Okay. Normally, when you have people who you meet them in the office after 2 or 3 months, the first thing that any one of us would do, since we're all people oriented, is probably meet our friends, give a handshake, give a warm hug, maybe spend a long time in the day, have lunch, breakfast, etc. with all the friends whom we care. But suddenly, Anamika finds herself in a place where she has to say hello from a distance, because she's been told that now we are a 6 feet organization and we have been certified as a 6 feet organization. So she enters the office, and when she enters the office, the security guard there is trained to take her body temperature. So he tests her temperature, and then she is certified fit enough to enter into the office. So what Anamika faces in her first day in the office immediately makes her think about what could be the challenges that she would face as an HR manager in that office. She enters into the office, she walks into her workspace, and she notices that it is drastically changed. The facilities people are still figuring out what's happening. They're still figuring out how to handle the situation. So what's happened there is, in her office, she's found that it used to be a cubicle which used to house 8 HR people. It was the HR area which used to house 8 HR people, and now only 4 seats are there. 4 chairs have been removed from there. So Anamika is figuring out where she has to sit, and then she discovers that there is a schedule, there is a roster which is put up on the wall of the HR function saying, these are the people who will come in this shift, these are the people who will come in the second shift, and these are the people who will come on these days, and these are the people who will be coming on the other days. And somebody also hands her a note saying that, these are going to be signages which we need to place, and we need your views on this. So while Anamika is still settling into this, understanding a 6 feet office actually essentially means maintaining a 6 feet distance between workstations. 6 feet is considered as a typical human height. The concept of 6 feet office actually emerged from the Europe, and therefore the typical human height for all practical purposes has been considered as 6 feet. So a 6 feet distance between any 2 people working in the office is what that defines a 6 feet organization. So as Anamika settles down into one of her seats there, she opens up her email, and then her emails, there is a flurry of emails which are very, very different from a typical email that an HR manager would receive. So she sees an email which says, these are the shift rosters of the people in your team, and these are the shift rosters of the people in the rest of the organization. And then she looks at it, and she also notices one alarming thing. In the past, all shifts that were there had a half an hour overlap. Because her organization was catering to offices globally, the half an hour overlap between shifts used to help people to hand over information that is work in progress. She suddenly notices that now the shifts have been made in such a way that there is a 1 hour gap between the 2 shifts. Then she realizes, oh yes, this is another concept which is coming under the 6 feet office or the 6 feet organization. So she says, fine, this is how it is, and I'll have to deal with it. We'll see what kind of challenges I face. And constantly her mind is thinking, what are the kinds of challenges that are going to come? So she decides to take a walk around the office and see what other people have to say. And she's curious to see how they are managing 6 feet distance everywhere on the office floor. So she gets up from her space and she starts walking around. And she notices that there are new signages on the aisles. Everywhere there are new signages which are telling people to walk only in one direction. So if you have to meet somebody who is on the other end of the office, you cannot take a shortcut and go anti-clockwise. The 6 feet organization rule says, no matter where you go, whom you have to meet, no matter how many times you have to meet that person, you have to only walk in a clockwise direction in the office. And there are signages everywhere which are indicating that. This is the new 6 feet organization rule. Anamika is now even more shocked and surprised, and she's wondering, how are we going to manage the employee discipline in this? How much of accountability it will be on her as an HR manager to create and sustain an awareness about why the 6 feet organization is in place and what things have to be followed in order to make it successful. She continues her walk. She follows the signages, of course, because Anamika is somebody who has decided that she would lead by example. So she keeps following the signages. She takes her steps, and she notices that everywhere half the seats have been reduced. So there's only 50% of occupancy. The seats have been moved in such a way that there is significant amount of distance. Not only that, she also noticed that the walls between the cubicles have been raised with glass panels or acrylic panels, so that people cannot really lean across those cubicle walls and talk to each other. So Anamika is wondering, it is just 3 months ago that I did a training program in communication. Mihir, this is for you. Anamika is wondering that she did a training program in communication where she went and told people that as far as possible, if you have to talk to somebody in the office, walk up to that person. Okay, do not use the intercoms. And now, suddenly, she is required to instruct the same people that as far as possible, do not walk up to the individual. Please use intercoms or converse on chat. So she is really racking her brains. How am I supposed to make all these people unlearn the disciplines that I was trying to instill all these days? And she realizes that there are going to be a lot more challenges that come, because these are things which are looking at her, staring at her right in the face. There are a lot more hidden things which will emerge slowly as she progresses in the organization. So this is Anamika's situation at the workplace on day one, when she realizes that her organization is a 6 feet organization. They have been certified as a 6 feet office. Right? Now, believe me, this is a terminology that I just genuinely wanted everybody in this group to understand, because whether your city is severely under COVID or not, it doesn't matter. However, it does definitely make sense, one, to be aware of a global terminology. 6 feet organization or 6 feet office is propagated very much in the European countries. And obviously in India as well, in cities like Mumbai, 6 feet offices have been spoken up by a lot of the multinationals and a lot of the organizations who are working with the Western world, because this is an extreme sense of precaution that's happening. So one is, in the 6 feet office, every individual will be checked for their wellness when they enter the office every day. That's one thing which is mandatory. There are rules of seating. There are washroom rules. That is, every alternate washroom has been blocked off. Now that's another thing that Anamika noticed. So that's one thing that's happening. Seats have been reduced. And another thing that's happening is cafeteria. So it's such a complete overturn from what it was 3 months ago. I remember in all our offices in Mumbai, we have a problem of rodents. Rats come into all our offices, and you'll find them on the false ceiling. So it's very, very common problem. So we used to have our admin team who used to tell us, no eating at your desks. Everybody has to go to the cafeteria only for food. Okay. And now what Anamika is seeing in the new office place is there is a signage which says the cafeteria will house only 10 people. It's a 50-seater cafeteria. There is a signage which says to seat 10 people only. And it is requested that all employees have their meals at their desks. This is an amazing change. And she's wondering, how are people going to break their old habits? So people find themselves having their lunch at their workplaces. So the challenges she's facing now, these are the few initial ones which she sees in the very first day. So then she goes back to her place and she starts thinking, what is it that can happen further? So then she's wondering what about the HR processes? We've been having a practice of doing these stand-up meetings where the project teams meet up every day, like a toolbox meeting. The first thing that they do is every day they catch up for about 15 minutes. They figure out on what are the actionables for the day before they progress. How is that going to happen? And she discovers that she has to come up with rules on how that has happened, because she has been told to minimize person-to-person interaction as much as she can and bring about policies which encourage people to connect over video conferencing. So that's one thing that is right there on her plate, and she has to get into action to make that work in the organization. And as she's walking back to her place and as she's walking around the rest of the day, she notices that even conference rooms are looking very different. No conference room can seat more than 10 people at a time if they are big. And if they are small conference rooms, either they have been sealed off completely as non-functional, or they have been converted to a single user or a 2-user conference rooms or some smaller meeting rooms. So she's wondering, what is she going to do to manage all these changes? So as she's thinking through, she's also figuring out that obviously she came mentally prepared. She came to work assuming that she'll have to change the attendance policies, because already 50% of her organization is going to continue to work from home. So she'll have to come up with policies that cater to that as well. And then she wonders what will happen when we have to conduct training programs. So she has her first catch-up meeting with her learning and development head. And then she's obviously, so the learning and development person, since he belongs to a center of excellence and he's probably not required in the office at all times, he has been asked to work from home. So she has this video call with her colleague, and she's trying to relook the whole calendar, and they're figuring out how the calendar will look, because now from all those classroom programs have to be converted to digital programs or online programs. They have to move to an online platform. So one of the things that she needs to do is to reconfigure the whole thing, put those program content on the portal, come out with the effectiveness measurement methods, because effectiveness measurement in a physical session may be very different from the effectiveness measurement from a, that has to be done for a self-learning online program. So she has to work with her learning and development manager to come out with that. So that's another thing which gets added on to her things to do. So policies, of course, the learning portal, how do you manage learning? How do you manage attendance into learning? How do you manage nominations for the learning programs? How do you measure effectiveness? How do you bring in external facilitators? So she works for a project company which requires a lot of project related technical training. So she's wondering, how do I get an external facilitator? So then she figures out she needs to have a chat with the IT organization to understand which is a safe platform in which she can invite her external facilitators. And then as she is thinking, she has a meeting which is lined up with some of her senior management staff, and she knows what's going to hit her next. People are going to ask her about how are we going to manage performance evaluation. So obviously she knows that the senior management is very keen on understanding how performance management exercise is going to run, because they're going to ask her for her calendar of events very soon, and she has not yet started thinking on that. When it comes to performance evaluation, it's not just movement of the performance appraisal forms. I think whoever has heard me enough number of times knows that performance management, in my mind, and I wish it is so in everyone's mind, is not just, does not restrict itself to movement of assessment forms from person to person. So performance management is end to end. It's about how people interact. It's how people delegate tasks. It's how people take delegation. It's how people drive initiatives. It's how their initiatives are evaluated, how their performance is measured. Is there any micromanagement? Is there a boss breathing down somebody's back? How tasks are monitored? How faults are found? How bugs are fixed? And it's all over the place. And she's just wondering, how will all these things fit into this new normal of a 6 feet organization, where till the time that she is informed, till there is a go ahead, she will not be able to get more than 50% of her staff working in the office, and people are going to be working from almost anywhere in the country. So she's starting to think about all these things. So this was Anamika's first day at the workplace in a scenario where her city, her organization is emerging out of the pandemic situation, and she's wondering, who are my stakeholders now? Right? Earlier, it was very simple. People who are your managers, who are your decision makers in the organization, they are your stakeholders. Each and every employee who comes and meets you every day, whom you have lunch with, whom you have your breakfast with in the office, they're all your stakeholders, because you're hearing from them in real time what are the challenges that they are facing, what is it that they wish to do, how you can help them. All those conversations that used to happen face to face seem to have disappeared. Now all these conversations, she'll have to figure out how she has to track her conversations with all her stakeholders, and just to ensure that every single stakeholder's concern is addressed through the 6 feet organization concept, because that's a compliance that is required to be, because her organization has been certified as a 6 feet organization, which means at random there can be checks whether they are following the rules of the 6 feet organization. The rules, as I said, is everyone is checked for their wellness as they enter the office. The seating is kept in such a way that there is a 6 feet distance between two workstations or two chairs, two people working. The cafeterias are reduced in numbers so that equal distance, social distance is maintained between people. The conference rooms have been reconfigured to seat fewer people so that distancing is maintained. A lot of the coffee vending machines have been reduced. The number of coffee vending machines have been reduced. And there are lots of precautions around how do you sanitize yourself as you enter the office. Each time you leave the office, even for picking up a courier parcel or something, and you re-enter. So all these things are going to become habits which will have to be inculcated. Now, when it comes to inculcating habits in people and making it part of what they do every day, is itself something that was overwhelming our friend Anamika. So there she is, her day one at the workplace, trying to figure out how is she going to manage all of this. So this is the concept of the 6 feet organization or the 6 feet office that I wanted all of you to understand and assimilate. Now we have finished with our 20-minute slot of monologue. So let me take a pause here. I need to breathe. And I would encourage each one of you to ask me questions around 6 feet organization and what is it that you see as challenges. I know that a lot of questions came in as you did your registrations, but those questions, many of them were very generic and they were not related to this particular topic. But I have the questions with me, so I'll ensure that I send in my responses to Prakash as soon as I can, and he will circulate it back with the group. But right now, based on what I said, I would like someone to start a conversation here on what do you think could be Anamika's ways of solving, this 360-degree stakeholder management in a 6 feet organization. This is a flipped classroom, so I'm going to be asking you questions unless you ask me questions. So who would like to give it a shot? And there's no right or wrong answer. We are all speculating. We are all guessing. So together, let's find out solutions. You never know; it could be useful to us.
Aishwarya has raised the hand.
Yes, Aishwarya. Where's Aishwarya here? Can you unmute Aishwarya, Prakash?
Yeah, Aishwarya. Aishwarya unmuted.
Hello.
Prakash.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 1 minute, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, no problem. Aishwarya.
I think she has some problem in the mic.
Okay, can Aishwarya type okay, but in the meantime, Mihir has a question. Mihir's question is, what are your views on staff grievances? Will it be more or less, as people would be watching each other less? And if it would be masked faces, they would be listening or reading more from people on an email. Mihir, this is, jokes apart. This sounds a little funny, but I think that you've brought in a pertinent question here. I think we are all going to notice very different kinds of behavior in the 6 feet organization. Okay, you're right, because one is that people are going to find it extremely uncomfortable to not socialize, right? So when you're doing something which you're not comfortable with, there is bound to be some amount of discomfort or grievance that is appearing as you progress, right? So the grievances are likely to be this is again my guess. Okay, let's see how it goes. So grievance, when you're not able to talk to people, when you're not able to meet people, grievances are likely to emerge in the form of not being able to come up with solutions to problems that you're facing at the workplace. Now, when you're working as a team on a project, and if you're not able to communicate freely with somebody, with a team member who's sitting a desk away, it might become a little frustrating. So I think HR has a huge role to play over there in being vigilant to any kind of behavioral changes that are even slightly noticeable in their employees. So when HR is also spreading out and working in all the shifts to cater to everybody, I think that vigilance will be extremely useful as an insight. So if you find someone getting very depressed or feeling low about having to work with this kind of a distancing, I think HR has to immediately jump into action and get into a counseling kind of a mode, or at least give that person a hearing and try and help that person to solve the problem, help that person to socialize by maintaining the distancing as well, right? Yeah, there could be problems that could get related to that. Mona has a question: what can be or are the new inspiring work from home policies considering this new normal, since some of the policies that exist don't suit the current situation? In fact, most of the policies that exist will not suit the current situation, because somebody makes a policy in one organization and most of us do a copy paste, right? That is something that we all know. It's a well-known secret, right? So what policies can change for the new normal? Definitely all policies which are related to attendance, which are related to leave management, which are related to how do you attend trainings. Everything is going to change, including if your organization is large and there is a transport department which manages or the buses that run for the organization, even those policies are going to change. The seating for buses are also defined in the 6 feet office. Buses cannot are expected to fly at 30 to 40% of utilization, which means that's going to come. People are going to come back with a lot of questions to the HR folks, saying, if my bus is taking in only 40% of the people, how am I going to manage my deliverables at the workplace? Now that leads to the next question as to how remote working is going to be encouraged. So I'll give you an example of a bank. I was at one of these modern banks because I wanted to go to the branch and get something done. This was before the COVID time. It was when things were pretty normal. I walked into the branch and I found there were just 3 staffers in that branch. And there was a security guard. And at the entrance, he was insisting that whatever I want, I should do it through net banking and I should not enter the branch. And I was quite surprised because I'm used to nationalized banks, which are full of people. There's a lot of crowd. In fact, there's a token number and you wait for your turn and all of that. And here was this bank and this branch which did not allow me to enter. The security guard was preventing me from entering the branch, right? Then I said, I have to get things done in person, so I have to enter. So please let me enter. So I convinced him. And when I entered, the lady at the desk, she told me that you have come here for a demand draft, okay? Had you requested this demand draft online, there wouldn't be service charges levied to you. Okay, because you came here in person, the penalty for coming to the branch is service charges. And they said this, they're doing it intentionally because they want to maintain a lean staff at their office. Okay, they want to automate as much as possible and they want to have banking happening at the fingertips of their customers, and that is their USP. Now, if that is something which is already started, I think a lot of organizations will start replicating those. So there could be a penalty for people having to work from office. So earlier, when we needed work from home requests, we used to have to give justification for working from home. Now it's going to flip, and people are going to require justification for working from office. So HR's role will be to look at how do you handle all of this. Okay? So policy making will be a huge thing. So Mona, every policy will have to undergo change. Rajagopal says grievances will be more on the subject of healthy environment, work from office. Pretty much. There could be a lot of speculations, there could be a lot of apprehensions in people's minds. They may not be very happy or very convinced with the hygiene that is maintained in their office spaces. People managing facilities and admin could have a tough time demonstrating that their cleaning procedures are intact. But there are standard operating procedures which have also been published, by health authorities, and every office is supposed to follow that, and they're supposed to display as well as to how well they have cleaned. Yeah, but there could be a grievance. People could still be annoyed with a little amount of unclean surfaces that they see. That might become a challenge. I agree. Geeta's question is, presume that the virus has completely wiped out. What next changes can we expect in HR? The virus completely getting wiped out is something which we are not yet ready to make that statement. Probably we will be at a situation very soon where we will learn to live with the virus and cope with it and deal with it. So let's take it at that. And what next changes can we expect in HR? I would say, as always, HR is always expected to be dynamic in terms of understanding what the business requirements are, what the environment requirements are, and get into action and do the best, right? So that is not going to change. What is going to change is what is the new standard operating procedure for HR? That is what is going to change. So from moving from letting people know that you need to socialize a lot more, you have to actually now tell people that socialize but maintain physical distance. When you're telling people that it's great to see a full office, please come to the office, you'll have to probably change the way you work to tell people that it's good if you work from home. So what HR's role will be is to, you know, for all these things to happen very efficiently. You know, when people have to work very, very efficiently from home, when managers have to ensure that work is getting done from home, HR's role will be to focus a lot on trust and transparency in the organization. If you want a culture of complete accountability across teams, and if you want a culture of trust, you have to have transparency and communication as the warp and the weft. If trust is the fabric, then the threads will have to be transparency and communication. So a lot of transparency needs to be built in between teams, within the teams. Managers will have to be coached on how to empathize with their team members, how to understand what challenges they could be facing as they're working remote, and so on and so forth. So HR's role will move from being a paper pusher to a person pusher to somebody playing the role of a coach, and in developing more coaches. So developing more coaches is coaching and developing more coaches is my answer to you, Geeta. Deepa's question is how to handle fear of employees of being infected while we ask them to come to office. Of course, like I said, the standard operating procedures are there, and there are ways in which that has to be displayed. So it will take a little while for people to get accustomed and to get a feel that things are happening properly, but eventually it will happen. So till the time the fear is there, I think our role in our interaction with people is to allay that fear, put that fear to rest. So we'll have to convince them that things are happening and there are responsible people who are doing it. Because if you're certified as a 6 feet office, obviously there are audits, there are checks that is happening. And the number of positive cases or the number of suspect cases will also be less. So that will eventually give them enough proof. Is there any question that I have missed before Mihir? Thanks, Prabhakaran. If my narration is reminding you of stories at work, yeah, well, this is stories at work. Deepak Shanmugam has a question or thoughts. The need of the hour are wellness initiatives, particularly mental wellness and ergonomic awareness. Also more emphasis on the data security awareness. Actually, very well said, Deepak. Deepak, would you like to unmute yourself and voice out your thoughts, because I want you to elaborate more on whatever you have typed.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's a wonderful session. Thank you so much for that. I think Anamika inspired us to know about the post-COVID situation, how we are going to face the workplace. I think thank you for that. I think particularly these are my thoughts, and so these are more our emphasis we are giving in our current organization where I'm working. I'm working for Infosys, and we are giving more programs towards the mental wellness and the awareness. Also a lot of health specific tips are happening, but we are engaging with different set of specialists like the parenting, and also a lot of other initiatives to take it up where it will help the employees while they're working at home, and how to build up their support system. That kind of plan we are focusing on. And also being as an IT company, we are focusing on the data security front and other thing, because considering the client expectations. So that is also going on. And so these are the three important points where we are focusing on: mental wellness and awareness, and also on the employees' physical wellness. And the third thing is on their awareness on the data security and the other consequences, madam.
Thank you so much, Deepak. I think you actually kind of answered Meenakshi's question. Meenakshi's question is, she feels employees are more stressed, stretching their work hours during work from home, and how could we motivate them? So one of the things is, one of the reasons for stress of working from home is when you're working from home, you're also doing a lot of other things at home. Because you have things that are happening around you, and you end up doing a lot of things, and you end up putting in many hours of work when you're working from home, because you're actually doing a lot of physical work around the place. So I know of organizations who have transported office furniture to their employees' homes, because some of them do not have ergonomic furniture so that they're able to sit and work without stress. A wrong posture of sitting and working also leads to stress. For example, I work from home most of the time. My kind of work is like that. So I have a designated place. This is a desk. And I never sit on any other place other than this chair. And this chair is ergonomically designed in a way that I cannot slouch even if I want to. You'll always find me sitting absolutely upright like this. And when I don't slouch, one is my mental alertness is much higher. And also I don't end up having backaches, right? But if you don't instill that discipline in yourself, you could end up feeling more stressed if you end up sitting anywhere on the couch or anywhere on the bed most of the time. It's okay once in a while to do, but that shouldn't become a habit. So teaching people the importance of ergonomic, like Deepak said, ergonomic awareness, that kind of will help during the stress. And work from home, obviously, the way work is monitored, people might be getting stressed because they feel that I am doing so much, but my manager is not able to see what I am doing. But if you're able to come up with procedures or methods in a way that people feel valued for their work, and they don't really think they need to get themselves assessed by the volume of the work that they're doing, then I think you have an answer there to handle their stress. And whenever people are out of sight, remember they should not be out of mind, especially for us in the HR field. So if people are working from home, ensure that they don't go out of our mind, and be sure to reach out to them as and when you can. Put something in rotation so that you reach out. Like I used to talk about walk the talk. Continue being your employee champion. If you cannot meet somebody in person, ensure that you talk to an individual at least once in 15 days. Divide all your employees amongst your HR teams so that each person can handle 50 employees, become a champion for 50 employees, and reach out to them once in 15 days. Just a casual small conversation might help. That could help in relieving stress. We have more questions, so I'm just going down. Yeah, Rajgopal, you're right. We have to work closely with admin team. Only then we can achieve the 6 feet office. Yes, because they would be responsible for maintaining the 6 feet office, obviously. Aishwarya's question, how can we ensure that changes are taken by employees in this tough time, and how can we encourage them? Any change management has the same principle. If you push the change down somebody's throat, they're not going to accept it. Nobody wants change. Nobody wants to come out of their comfort zones, or nobody wants to come out of whatever they have got used to. So when you have to drive the change, you have to do it with a lot of empathy. Okay? When I say empathy, it means that you have to put yourself in their shoes, understand their perspective of why they might resist the change you're trying to drive, and accordingly drive the change in such a way that it becomes palatable to them. You might have to do it in bits and pieces. You might have to do with a lot of counseling, with a lot of talking, so on and so forth. You cannot push any change down anyone's throat. It just will not work. Employees, Shashidharan's question is, employees are affected mentally because of layoff fears. As HR, how to motivate in such cases and need to improve their performance as well? Now, okay, this is a very interesting question, Shashidharan, and I've been trying to answer this to the best of my ability. One role of HR is to talk to the decision makers in our organization and help them with enough information so that layoffs are not becoming knee-jerk reactions, right? But you might argue with me saying that this is easier said than done. We cannot go and talk to our managers and we will be instructed to lay off. At least make an attempt. That is my first request to HR professionals. Play your role. Try to see if you can make an attempt of managing that. Otherwise, how you can handle people's fears is, I've seen one thing. This is a global pandemic and there is no dispute to it. So one thing which each one of us should believe, and we also need to tell people, is that because of the pandemic, if you are on the verge of losing your job, on the verge of getting laid off, or on the verge of stagnation, just let it be for a while. You can easily explain a career gap due to the pandemic at any time later. It's not going to be a challenge. Let's instill this feeling in everyone's minds, in ourselves as well, because getting laid off can happen to anyone. Okay, so it's not necessary that HR is bad of getting laid off. So it can happen to anyone. I think this is one thing is, if it comes, it comes. Let's accept it gracefully. What we do next is, what is it that we want to see ourselves 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line? For that persona, like I said, try and develop the skills that you need to see yourself there. Invest your time, invest a career gap if it happens, to develop the skills which will take you a step ahead. Do not spend the time regretting what happened with you. If you invest the time, you will get a return on investment after some time. If you spend the time, time will just get spent. So if you're able to put all this in the right perspective and talk to employees, one is it will strengthen you to face a situation in your life, if ever it happens, God forbid. It will also help people come out of their fears. Yeah, but the thing is, if it has to happen, it has to happen. So one is you have to be able to accept it. Kalai's question, can you tell me how Anamika is going to manage the discipline on making the employees to walk only in one direction? How to attain 100% adherence from employees? Kalai, my simple answer to you is, it is not Anamika's accountability alone to ensure 100% adherence from employees. It is every individual's responsibility and accountability to ensure that he or she is complying with this in the interest of one's own safety and the safety of colleagues in the organization. All that Anamika has to do is drive home that point. If she takes it upon her that I am going to ensure everybody is walking only in the clockwise direction, then she is playing a policeman there. And HR's role is never to be a policeman, right? All that she has to do is help people drive that awareness and discipline for themselves. Muduluru Dilip, how the organization is going to be ready to face the loss following the 6 feet policy. Practically, this policy may not be viable for all organizations. As HR, how we need to handle the stakeholders. See, no organization will be ready and go and face a loss. Okay, obviously they would do things around the 6 feet organization rules, around the 6 feet organization concept, so that the revenue losses don't happen. HR's role would be to support the organization's decision towards it, as long as it is fair and just and transparent with the people. HR's role is to challenge decision makers only if they are taking a decision which is going against people or it is not fair and transparent. That is HR's role. But otherwise, I think in terms of the cost benefit analysis, there would be leadership teams and strategic teams who would be working on it. So no organization is going to embrace losses, because we also, along with managing the pandemic, we also have a commitment towards building the nation's economy, right? So no organization is going to go and embrace losses. Ramesh Kumar says, Anamika may face challenge in creating trust among employees on the safety measures taken, because only then people engage in work without a second thought. Yeah, but like I said earlier, it is not her role alone. All that she'll have to do is create sustainable awareness of why it is important in your own interest and in the interest of your colleagues, and then it will get done. How much of onboarding process can be thoroughly online? Yeah, that's something where you'll have to apply a design, Prabhakaran. You'll have to figure out how you will design an onboarding process which works extremely well. It can be done. You'll have to apply certain concepts of design thinking as to how you achieve that. You'll have to run a few prototypes and do it. And we have some people here in this group who have tried it, who have worked on it, so you can reach out to them. Thanks, Geeta. You liked my response. Thanks. Okay, so there's somebody called Users iPhone. I don't know who it is, but
Vijay.
Who's that?
Vijay Kumar, I think.
Vijay Kumar. Okay, touch wood, nothing should happen like that. But if an employee is affected, and how will we treat that employee? What will he get as a special case? There is a procedure which has come from the health authorities as to how a suspect should be reported. Definitely your admin teams would know it. So find out what the procedure is and just follow it to the T. Because more than anything else, the risk of spreading is very high. And HR's role there is to help people understand that and prevent spreading. And what will the employee get as a special case? All of that is pretty much outlined. Insurance companies are working very hard to try and see what best they can do to offer as a benefit. But till that time, we'll have to go with whatever is the procedure that has been defined. Yeah, Mohan Babu, I agree with you. HR's role in maintaining the discipline and integrity is going to be a challenge. It always was a challenge, wasn't it? There's nothing new. If you put policies in place and push people to follow, you will find it as a challenge. But if you are able to coach people and make them understand why they have to follow and allow them their flexibility to have their way once in a while, it should be easy for them to accept. Just a thought you wanted to share. HR folks need to be ready to shoulder more business required responsibilities and not restricted to HR role. You're very right, Mohan Babu, and that was always the case. And I would be extremely happy if all HR folks thought that way all the time. Then we wouldn't be fighting for a seat at the table. We already would have a seat at the table. So it's HR's role does not stop with paper pushing or people pushing. It's way beyond that. So you can look at responsibilities of the business. Challenges, Gerard Michael, I didn't understand. Challenge is to reduce the rent payable to lessors. I didn't understand. Gerard, can you articulate your question? I will unmute you.
Yeah, good evening, madam. It's basically we are not using the office space, but we need to pay the rent to the landowners. So how do we address? Because we are not sure of whether it's going to be for a 6 months period or a 1 year period, but they are not in any way ready to reduce the rent.
Yeah, I won't have a general answer for this. This will be very much case dependent. It might probably require certain relook of some of the agreements and some of the understandings. Organizations known to me have done that. They have approached the landlords and they have renegotiated the agreement and terminated the previous agreement and redrafted. So it would depend. It would differ case to case, but it will definitely require some thought on renegotiation. If it's really going to be a big hit, I'm sure it will be worthwhile doing a renegotiation. Yeah. Ragland says how much percentage of companies are giving complete work from home in Mumbai and how many percentage are giving partially. This depends on the organization and the type of roles that the organization has, which can efficiently work from home. So it ranges from 30% to 80%. Companies which are completely ITES space, they have moved almost 50-60% of their people also immediately working from home, whereas other organizations like manufacturing, they've moved only 30%. Manufacturing is barely touching 30%. So it depends on the organization and the capability. But if everyone makes an attempt to maintain social distancing, we will be in a better position to combat the virus. That's what I would say. The organization look into this. We just hope that doesn't happen, Vijay. But anyways, that'll have to be looked at like any other fatality. But we just hope that doesn't happen, because if we maintain the 6 feet office, I'm sure we should be able to handle it. Haripriya says, question is how companies are handling COVID leave taken by employees and how are they connecting with employees? COVID leave, I presume, Haripriya, you're talking about people who have been affected by the virus. Yeah, you'll have to relook your policy. You'll have to look at what is the kind of leave balance data is there. Because understand one thing, when you're redefining anything on leave, it is all linked to a cost, because leave is a paid benefit, right? So you cannot only look at what is happening to the leave policy, you will have to look at it from a finance angle as well. And a lot of HR folks, believe me, do not understand that. So it's time that we start looking at leave as a benefit and how it hits the organization, because it needs to be paid off if not taken. It affects productivity as well. So you need to look at your leave policy and see what you can do. You might be facing a couple of cases where there are some challenges, yeah, but then there are solutions. So you'll have to think a little creatively. Yes, Prakash, I know it's the last 5 minutes, but I can't resist myself from going through. I'll take a couple of questions. Yes, empathy is vital. Deepak, I agree. Okay. Yeah. Prakash is threatening me last 1 minute. All right. So I think we will stop with the questions here. In case any of you has more questions, please feel free to reach out to me or through Prakash and Gayatri, whatever. And many of you know me. I also saw Rajiv Shah here from Baroda. So there are many people here who know me. A lot of my students are also here. So anyone who wants to reach out to me, feel free to reach out if you have questions, if they have not been answered. Because we wanted to stick to this 2020, and I think we've already overshot. And let's follow the rule of 2020. Okay. So yeah. So Prakash.
Thank you so much. It was a very wonderful session and a narrative where we could be able to really imagine whenever you say the Anamika story, how she's been going through the office, how she's going to instruct the people to sit here and there, and what are the instructions that she is going to give it up. And thank you so much for the wonderful session, and thank you so much for the participants as well, ma'am.
Thanks, everyone, and all of you stay safe. And we hope that your journey into the 6 feet offices is absolutely full of good health. Bye-bye. Take care. Good night, everyone.